Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, has led to this. It's out of your hands now. All the gold medals in the world can't help you now. You could throw the perfect rock and still miss, but it just takes one. You leave it all out there on the ice to leave behind a legacy.
Previously on the Rod Pedersen Show.
Flames. Word association. Where are you in the Flames?
Well, hey, look, they're playing meaningful games at the end of February, which is not a bad thing. They're still a team that, is locked in the mushy middle. If they're a team, if they don't have Jacob Markstrom, they're not a very good team. So I think if they, and it's a fair question because everybody is talking about the unrestricted free agents, Noah Hannafin, Oliver Shillington, and of course, Chris Tanev. And here's the deal for the Calgary Flames. My sources are telling me that Craig Conroy has not pulled the trigger on a trade yet because deep down, he would still like to re-sign Noah Hannafin. So he's got a couple of weeks, to maybe sweeten the pot or just really see where Noah Hannafin is. You make a Noah Hannafin trade, you're not going to make your team better. You may get some futures, but he's a 27-year-old defenseman in his prime. Now, he tells people around him that he likes the city, but how truthful is he with that? We saw that with Johnny Gaudreau. Love the city, love the city. Oh, I want to go back to the States because I'm an American-born player. Is Noah Hannafin saying the same thing? Is he saying, love the city, love the city, love the city? Oh, I want to go back to the States. And I think that is why we haven't seen the Noah Hannafin trade happen yet, because I do believe the Calgary Flames really would like to re-sign the player. But in 2 weeks, if that deal is not on the table and Noah Hannafin is not going to sign on the dotted line, then obviously you will see that player move.
Get ready for the Rod Pedersen Show.
And we were on the road with the Rough Riders. Joe Womack was our strength coach, and he was rooming with Ron Estee. I'm coming down the elevator with Joe Womack, and he is so mad. And I'm like, what's wrong, Joe? And he goes, you wouldn't believe what Estee did. He's in his underwear, and he emptied the minibar. Smarties and the Kit Kats, thinking it's free, thinking it was a gift basket. And Joe looks at me, it ain't fun.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the RP Show. It's a brand new week. Get on up inside. If you weren't woken up yet, you are now, courtesy of the breaking news bell. And we don't have any breaking news yet, but we're just setting sail for the first of 2 hours of wonderful sports talk today. Darren Moose DuPont is in Toronto. I'm in the South Florida studio. Let's please bring in Darren Moose DuPont. And our guests today include James Roberts of the Offside Hockey Podcast. He always likes to talk Leafs. And Josh Gets Off, not to be confused with Gets Laugh. Josh Gets Off of the Pittsburgh Penguins radio crew. He's the voice of the Penguins, going to be with us. They had a real ring-a-ding-dong dandy yesterday. Moose, what do you got going on? How are you? What's up? Give me some.
I'm great. Awesome weekend. Checked out a concert in town, went to the movies, and I had to go in the closet and pull out the green today with Something Saskatchewan to pay homage to our home province. Did so well. Telemiracle this weekend, and to you, carving out a piece of your weekend for going on the program and behalf of this show and doing great things, raising some great money. So great weekend in the Rectangle.
Love it, love it, love it. Yes, I was 11:42 p.m. Eastern, almost midnight on Saturday. I said to Serena, I've usually been asleep for a couple hours and gotten up and had a leak by now. Let alone stay up till midnight to go and tell a miracle. The 20-hour telethon on CTV Regina. So I was grateful to be part of that. It was awesome. A lot of people. They had a lot of people watching, Moose. You always know when you're on, your phone blows up. People are watching you on or listening to you or what have you. So that was a great weekend. There you go. Can you hit the quick six show horn, please, Director Gordon? And with that, we'll quit Mickey Mousin'. We got a lot We got a lot to get to. My big story will very likely be different than Darren's, and that's what makes this all fun. But the big story in my world, let me open it here, has to do with the National Hockey League, and it's the game that I watched yesterday. And I could spend 2 hours on this topic, okay? Patrick Kane scored on a breakaway, 143 into overtime in his first return to Chicago, lifting the Detroit Red Wings to a 3-2 victory over the Blackhawks Sunday. The dynamic winger that held his arms in the air as the season-high crowd of 21,141 at the United Center cheered. Patrick Kane starred for the Blackhawks for 16 NHL seasons before he was traded to the New York Rangers a year ago, and he signed with Detroit as a free agent this offseason. Actually, it was this season. So I don't know if you were watching any of this, but it's big in terms of how our world is getting connected, okay? So we're watching the game. Bedard, by the way, had an assist in a losing cause. Connor Bedard. I'm watching the game with Serena. We're on the couch. Our new and good friend, Dale Talon, was there. He drafted Patrick Kane when he was the general manager of the Blackhawks. He's there. Marian Hossa was there. All these Blackhawks greats. Denis Savard. And it was just a big old party, a big old Blackhawks party in the United Center. And it just made my heart feel good. I love the pregame ceremony for Chelios. They put the number in the rafters. And then they have the video tribute for Patrick Kane, which I think they did this. Did you watch the game, by the way, just to clarify? Did you see any of it?
Not start to finish, no, but I did see the extended highlights, and I was dialed in through.
Okay, wait.
But that's it.
Hey, cool. Listen, I have a very tough time watching a whole game for 60 minutes. Hockey, football, tiddlywinks, whatever. I can't. But last night I did because I was invested. And so Kane, in a television timeout, he's leaning on the boards, and they play the video tribute. He's, of course, in his Red Wings gear. And it's like, it's a 2-minute video, and then you think it's over, and he turns to go and skate into a loop, and the video starts again. It wasn't over. It was a long video for Patrick Kane. And while he had a great career with the Blackhawks, you know, he did 2 laps, standing ovation. And what was interesting, number one, the announcers on NBC Sports Chicago were saying, why did he ever have to leave? And it's like, guys, don't do that, because we all know why he had to leave. Don't look back. This is where we are now, number one. Number two, this morning, Scott Laughlin on NHL Radio, as I was running at Johnny O's gym, Scott said, have you ever seen the visiting team, the goal scorer, get a standing ovation or like a huge ovation? Like the Chicago lost, but Kane scored to win for Detroit, and the place went nuts in Chicago. And we're trying to figure out, is that because they love Kane? Is it because the Blackhawks are tied for last place overall and could win the lottery again? Why was that? And then overall, I think the thing that annoyed me, Darren, and I want your take and the audience's too, I hope everybody was as into this as I am. And if you're not, that's okay, because it's my show. Ken Daniels was calling the game on the Detroit TV, and he goes, when Kane scored the winner, he goes, and he has cemented himself as the greatest U.S. player of all time in the NHL. I'm like, And Serena turned and looked at me. She goes, is that right? I'm like, no, it was Modano. She's like, I thought you would say that, number one. And number two, the biggest thing that annoyed me, and I can't remember who said it, because obviously I heard a lot of commentary. People were saying that Chris Chelios told Patrick Kane before the game, don't steal my thunder tonight. I think somewhat tongue-in-cheek, then Kane does. And somebody said, this is the thing that sticks in my craw. Our Rod's rant, if you will, for Bronco Plumbing and Heating before we go any further. Somebody said today, why would they have Detroit come in and Kane on the night of Chris Chelios' retirement of his number? Why would they even do that? And I'm like, were you just born last night, or did you just fall off the turnip truck? This stuff is planned months in advance. The schedule was out. Patrick Kane didn't even decide where he was going to play till December. How would they know? And say, oh, Patrick Kane's coming in with Detroit on February 25th. We're going to move the game. Yet my guy Dale Talon was, because we were at the Panthers game Saturday night, and everybody's like, where's Dale? Where's Dale? Because he's always in the press box. And they're like, no, he flew to Chicago for the Chelios thing. Everybody would have to change their flights. You know, it's the way it was meant to be. Not to go too woo-woo on you, but it was an awesome night. And to say that Kane came in and spoiled the party, he did, but that's not his fault. He's just doing his job. Over to you.
I think he added to the party, to be honest. I thought it was great. It put so much in there. And then what I loved was Kane's post-game press conference. And you got Chelios, who kind of passed the baton from American greats to that era of Patrick Kane. And then you got Kane passing it over to Connor Bedard because they asked him about Bedard hitting him, and then he joked that if he wasn't wearing the bubble, he would have went after him, which was funny, and they all laughed. And, he talked about what a great player he is, and Kane, one of the more creative guys. What stood out to me in everything you said, 16 seasons in Chicago for Patrick Kane. He doesn't even look 30. He still looks young. He still has that youthful energy. He's fun to watch. And overall, that was a great night for hockey, period, in Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah, well, why would anybody try to make Patrick Kane feel bad? And I'm sitting there watching the game, and I said to Serena, God, it'd be nice to see Bedard and Kane play together. Oh, my God, a right shot and a left shot setting each other up. Oh, but it ain't going to happen. Kane is like literally twice Connor's age, but he plays like they could play together. And then we got into this whole business of the best Blackhawks of all time. And Serena, she doesn't like Kane because he's U.S. born, which also is not his fault. But she's like, he's not even in the top 3 Blackhawks all time. But I'm like, excuse me, stop. And of course, this is conversation. She's often said we should put a camera on our couch. It'd be the best television going. And, right? And I'm looking at the Stan Mikita's all-time games played, Bobby Hull's all-time goals. I think Kane's up there. Kane's top 3, 4, or 5 in every single category. Way more than Jonathan Toews or any more than Denis Savard or all these guys. And don't even get me going on Chelios. He's top 3 all time. And I said, I'm not arguing with you. We will not fight on this because I don't want to fight, and it's not a debate. You don't agree? I do. He's top 3. Let's move on. I just love Patrick Kane. Now, more than anything, our poll question was this. Who is the greatest USA player of all time? And is it subjective? Because Ken Daniels said it, the television voice of the Detroit Red Wings. It's our poll question today. It's brought to you, of course, as it always is, by Key Auto Group. At Key Auto Group, we're driven by safety. Experience peace of mind with our comprehensive multi-point inspections. Visit keyautogroup.ca for automotive excellence. And she was kind of just looking for a fight. But I said Modano is the all-time best U.S. player. The voters are saying Kane. I threw Chelios in there ahead of Jeremy Roenick, even though Chelios is nowhere near the top 10 or 20 for points, but he's a defenseman. And then and I see some great comments coming in, like, for instance, John in Winnipeg says Austin Matthews is the greatest U.S. player of all time. And I think producer Clark threw that out in the morning meeting. That's possible, too. For me, it's Modano. He's the best U.S. player of all time, best hockey player, period. I've seen him play many times, played for the team that my dad worked for 26 years. It's Mike Modano for me, but you, who are you voting for?
Matthews might be trending that way, but for me, and I know it's recency with the game last night and everything else, so I'll go Patrick Kane. A couple of reasons. I think you look at that era of Blackhawks hockey, forget about, the controversies that have come up and what happened. That's a really great era of hockey on the ice with the championships and with Jonathan Toews, Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook, everything they were able to do. I think that's a great era. And he won titles. He won championships, which I think puts him over the top.
Well, and by the way, that's where, again, Serena was just looking for an argument because she's like, how could you say Kane's up there just because of his 3 Stanley Cups? Connor Bedard didn't win anything in Regina, and you're saying he's the greatest Pat ever. And I said, why? No. Let's just stop. Junior and pro are apples and oranges. Bedard was only there for 3 years, and the team was terrible. No, it's not even the same debate. Randy from Winnipeg writes in and says, what about Brett Hull? Is he considered USA? Not to me, because he was born in Belleville, Ontario, period. I'm not going to get down that road. It's a good question, but no, he's not in our... Not as far as I'm concerned, no. Ted in Red Deer says, Modano's the best American player, in my opinion. Bobby Hull, Espo, and Glenn Hall are the 3 best Hawks all time, in my opinion. Tony Esposito, he's talking about in Glenn Hall. Well, you got talking about a 100-year-old franchise, too, by the way. There's a lot to choose. There's a lot to choose in Chicago for greatest Blackhawks of all time. Brent Woltman, watching in Wellington, Florida, says, all around, Big Walt is up there. He's referring to Keith Tkachuk, who I think is like 6th or 7th all time in scoring for USA players. But we're talking about the top 3 best. We can throw out who was great. We're talking about who's the best. And I'm saying it's Mike Modano. Carlos in Indianapolis says, I'd watch a rodcast of select games. I don't know, Darren, you're going to have to talk to our business people because I have not a large degree of interest of putting a camera on us while there's a game on. But having said that, I see there's an appetite for it. There's a guy here in Florida doing Panthers games, and he wants to get into the Cats and Bolts podcast with us. He's like, I got 7,000 subscribers on YouTube, and people watch me watch the game. And I'm like, we're good. But that's not to say I'm against it. But it's not right now in my purview. Is it in yours? Like, if we could find a sponsor for it, I would do anything. I would wear a thong and shave a racing stripe up my chest if it was enough money in it. Believe me, I would. But I don't know. Do you think people really want that? I hope not.
First of all, that's not hot. So cut the sound effect. No.
Okay.
You know what? The sponsor writes a check, and says jump, we'll say how high, right? I mean, we've always kind of maintained that, but I don't know, maybe. But again, you answered the question. It has to be something that you're interested in and you want to do. If you have something you want to do, we'll find a way to make it happen.
Oh, well, that opens a large can of worms. But I'll say this, at Super Bowl, I love dropping this, Reinbold pulls me aside, and whether this is, now would probably be a good time to throw this out. The defensive line coach at the University of Hawaii Rainbow Warriors program says, you and I should do a show, just an Instagram live show. Get your guys to sell it, because I think you and I got great chemistry, and we got great cachet with the CFL fans and pro football fans. You and I should do a show. So just go out and sell it, and let's do a show. And I'm like, if it were only that easy, coach. I love the idea of it, too. But if there's some sponsor out there that's just burning a hole in your pocket of cash, and you want to sponsor me and Reinbold watch and talk football once a week on Instagram Live, let's do it. But everybody's got the great ideas. Nobody wants to shovel the coal. You know what I mean? So moving on, I did the whole opening topic segment on my big story. Patrick Kane's return to Chicago. What was yours?
That was it. But no, my big story was the Scotties. That's my weekend viewing in sports, was locked in to Calgary and the curling. And it was a fantastic finish for Rachel Holman to win. She never lost a single game the entire week. She beat Jennifer Jones 3 times, including the final. That was cool, and it was a fun send-off for Jennifer Jones in her last Scotties Tournament of Hearts, as she got a great ovation from the crowd. Nice interview. It was a cool moment on Sunday night.
Let me read the news story on that. Rachel Holman of Ontario won the Canadian Women's Curling Championship with a dramatic 5-4 win over Jennifer Jones of Manitoba Sunday night in Calgary. Holman and teammate Emma Miskew claimed the 4th Scotties Tournament Hearts victories of their careers, but the first since 2017. Holman went undefeated, as Darren just said, 11-0 through the tourney. She'll represent Canada now at next month's Women's World Curling Championship in Sydney, Nova Scotia. So his big story was the Scotties. My big story is Kane's return, and we got a whole lot of other topics to get to. And this has been fun, but we have some even more fun stuff coming up after the break. We'll return in a jiff. Don't go anywhere. We're live on Game Plus Television. Also, Key Radio, your southern home of sports and talk down there in Atlanta. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Live.
Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, has led to this. It's out of your hands now. All the gold medals in the world can't help you now. You could throw the perfect rock and still miss, but it just takes one. You leave it all out there on the ice to leave behind a legacy.
The sports landscape continues to change, and teams and facilities are under more pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. They need the right team to deliver their product. Look no further than IKS Live. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience across all platforms.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, has led to this. It's out of your hands now. All the gold medals in the world can't help you now. You could throw the perfect rock and still miss, but it just takes one. You leave it all out there on the ice to leave behind a legacy.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. DDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Hey, honey, can you get one of the kids to show me how this Twitter thing works? Honey, I need to get on Instagram. Time for more of the Rod Pedersen Show.
Hey, gang, just a reminder, we're brought to you in part by Common Crown Brewing out of Calgary. You got a choice out there in Alberta, and they're making their way into Sask and a little bit into Manitoba. Why not make it Common Crown? A commitment to connection and celebration of uniqueness. Visit commoncrown.ca. Let's please bring the Moose in and pause for a second. It's been fun going through the sports weekend, but here's a little more fun. I told you we're on the radio down there in Atlanta, WQEE Key Radio, your southern home of sports and talk. Ryan O'Radio, who hosts the Radio Penitentiary every morning, 6 a.m. to 10. I'm not joking. It's called the Radio Penitentiary. He's the warden. He put this out to his listeners, Darren. What they would like to see is team names for when the NHL returns, comes to Atlanta for a third time. Are you ready? There's like 10. Pay attention and tell me which one of these you like the most. And the audience, feel free to jump in as well, okay? The Red Wolves, the Atlanta Red Wolves, the Rebels, the Serpents, the Beavers, the Peach Nuts, peach trees, the longshores, the possums, the crawdads, the wolves, and roadkill. From the listeners out in the Navajo Nation, their suggestion were the Tomahawks, the Mohawks, and the Chiefs. From Coach Tommy Lewis, he's a high school coach in town, he said, the Hilltops. How about that? What do you think, Clark? How about that? Do any of those grab you by the peach nuts, Moose? Any of those potential Atlanta NHL names?
Peach nuts is cool. No, that's not the name I would go with. I like the idea of putting something, peachy in there, like the Atlanta Peaches would be cool. But so peach nuts had me halfway there. Red Wolves, I don't know if I'm there. It sounds like a basketball team, like the Timberwolves. But I think they're onto something with peaches. I think just peaches instead of peach nuts. But anyways, I like some of those suggestions.
Well, it needs to be something symbolic of the area in my mind. I appreciate the possums, but I mean, the jokes write themselves. They play dead at home and get killed on the road. They didn't even get that out of the barn yet, and they're making fun of it. For the possums, it can't be the I don't mind the crawdads. And let's remember the Seattle Kraken, we all thought was dumb. I did anyways. And now we can't imagine them by any other name, right? So I'll read it again. Thank you, Ryan O'Radio from WQEE, where we air daily in 99.1 FM in Atlanta. The Red Wolves. I feel like there's a story behind the Red Wolves. I'm not against that. The Rebels, Serpents, Beavers, Peach Nuts, Peach Trees, Longshores, Possums, Crawdads, Wolves, and Roadkill. And from the nearby Navajo Nation, they said the Tomahawks, the Mohawks, and the Chiefs. And the Ninos, which is fire in their language. So, hey, if they're endorsing these names, I don't have a problem with that. I guess where the Atlanta Braves get away with the Tomahawk Chop and so forth, they still do it. They don't get the trouble that some of these other places do. So we'll pause or move on, but that was just a little fun and just to give you a little proof that indeed we've got a large audience in Atlanta. We are Atlanta's NHL show. Just going to throw in a Blue Jays note for a second. Juan Soto belted a 3-run homer to power the New York Yankees past the Toronto Blue Jays. 12-6 in spring training action Sunday afternoon. Toronto hosts the Pittsburgh Pirates on Monday. That's today in Dunedin, Florida. I'm not going to assess or even go any further than mentioning the scores. That's it. We're not investigating Blue Jays spring training results. Now, to the rest of the NHL leftovers, I saw people writing in here from Winnipeg, where we're very big in Winnipeg, the Manitoba capital. Kyle Connor scored 33 seconds into overtime to lift the Winnipeg Jets to a 4-3 victory Sunday that extended the Arizona Coyotes' losing streak to 12 games. Mark Scheifele had a goal and 3 assists for the Jets, who have won 3 in a row and 6 of their past 7. In New Jersey, Nikita Kucherov became the first NHLer to reach 100 points this season. He had a goal and 3 assists as the Lightning beat New Jersey 4-1, and the Columbus Blue Jackets scored 3 times in the second period and hung on to beat the Rangers 4-2 in New York and snap the Rangers win streak at 10. So aside from all the time that we spent on the Blackhawks and the Wings and everything else, what were the other I got a quick one. Ovi here the other night was disappointing. I'm sorry if this offends anybody, but to use my hockey friend's term, didn't piss a drop. That's a Sharks term. Ovi was out for a Sunday skate. Serena said, this is like paying to go watch Poison and thinking you're going to go watch the 1988 version of Poison, but no, you're watching the 2024 version of Poison. You know what I mean? Ovi's just not all that anymore. He was -1 on the night, pointless. He's 56 goals behind Gretzky, and with the effort that he put out the other night, he ain't going to catch him. Your weekend leftovers, please, from the NHL.
That's tough, because he had such a slow start to the year. Then he goes on a tear. not an Ovi tear that we're used to seeing of him in his prime, when he's got goals in 7 games and, kind of gets back up to some respectable numbers. But, 56 is not a lot. And so, he can find it, but it's just the evidence is showing it's going to be really tough. And he's not going to do it all in one shot, or he's not going to get rid of 40 of them in a year anymore. We're going to have to look at Ovi being the 15 to 20 goal scorer, maybe. And that's going to take more years. And is he going to continue to play? I don't know. But that's tough. And then on the flip side, I know we'll talk about it with one of our guests today, but, the Leafs continuing to win and rolling through some pretty good teams in Vegas and now Colorado on the weekend. Pretty successful trip getting Morgan Riley back, and they're starting to look like a team again. And, that's pretty good. We've seen this before, and it hasn't translated into playoff success, but it's a pretty big stretch of games here for Toronto.
That's Moose's Leftovers, brought to you by Tupperware.
How about that?
The poll question today for Key Auto Group, who's the greatest USA-born player of all time? Paul in Humboldt says Austin Matthews. So I'm just dropping in comments from the audience as we go regarding which Atlanta NHL team name do you like? David in Winnipeg says he likes the Rebels. Alan in Saskatoon says the Possums. Jason in Red Deer says the Atlanta Peach Wolves. That's not terrible. Monty says Hilltops is already taken, Rod. Yeah, we'll tell that to the Vancouver Giants when they were named. Giants were taken, unless they have a trademark on it. Ryan O'Radio, who's flying the ship there at the control board in the radio station at WQEE, says, you're welcome. Randy from Winnipeg says the Atlanta Flame Thrashers.
How about that?
It's just a little long. It's just a little long, but I'm not against it. I guess if you put it in a circle, it wouldn't be too bad. Ted in Red Deer says Red Wolves here. That's his vote. And Jason in Red Deer says the Atlanta Wolfpack. And I feel like you could have a hangover theme, like bring in Alan from The Hangover to having autographs on the concourse one night, and all those guys. Can you imagine? The Atlanta Wolfpack.
Yeah. I could be into that. And the spin-off jerseys you could do and theme nights. It could be neat. And you would play in the den, right? Be the Wolf Den. That's what wolves live in, right? A den, I think. So that could be cool. There's a lot of little spin-offs, and you got to think about all those different other marketing campaigns when you pick a team name.
Hot damn.
Well, to be honest, how about the Georgia Swarm? Let's forget Atlanta. Let's encompass the whole state. I love the NLL team and their gear from Georgia, and they play in Duluth, Georgia, the Atlanta Swarm. Oh, my God. Talk about spin-offs. They got great gear. By the way, Hangover 2 was on last night, and I watched it. What's the one movie? Everybody? I know I'm throwing a lot of topics at you, everybody. You got to be quick today. What's the one movie that when you see it on the channel grid, you stop and you watch it? Every time. For me, it's Hangover 1, 2, or 3. Always stop and watch it.
Liar, liar.
Liar, liar. Clark just said his is Forrest Gump, and isn't that fantastic? Listen, what channel's that on, Clark? You got some newfangled cable package I never heard of? Okay. Oh, TBS, he says, I never see Forrest Gump on. I would watch it more. But a Hangover, I just can't get enough of those guys. Those crazy guys. I just can't get enough of them. But did you die? That was the one last night from Hangover 2. But did you die? Glenn in Medicine Hat writes in, he says, fun fact, Kane and Bedard are both #1 overall picks by Chicago, who went into their first NHL training camps and made the Blackhawks at 18. That's what I'm saying. Kane's literally twice as old as Connor Bedard, but I was watching him last night going, man, would I love to watch these two play together. Kane does not look twice Bedard's age. Arlen Bruce, the third, writes in. He says, great morning, RP and Moose. Just a little update on Arlen Bruce, the fourth, my son. 6 NFL teams have reached out to him More to come. Pro Day is scheduled for March 28th on NFL Network. Let's go. Thank you, AB. We all know the situation. He signed a contract with the Edmonton Elks. The league terminated it, ostensibly, presumably, because of his violation at Iowa for gambling, breaking NCAA violations. I don't understand how long you're supposed to pay for something like that, but it is what it is. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be a trip if he ended up signing with an NFL team? He's good enough. Bill Edwards, the gentleman that sent me the Ron and Don bobblehead, he says the movie he always watches is Castaway. Darren in Utah says The Waterboy. That was just on the other day. You can do it. I never get tired of that. Reg Dunlop, watching in Winnipeg, says Dumb and Dumber. Oh, right. Samsonite. Mary Samsonite.
Sammy, Swami, Swanson. Samsonite. I was way off.
Yeah, big gulps, eh? Ted. Well, hey, getting serious here. Well, not that serious, but David in Winnipeg says, Star Wars for me, I would watch that more. You guys got different channels than I got. Or maybe I'm just stuck in the same area all the time, but it's Hangover that keeps coming on for me. Ted in Red Deer says, so why did Kane not sign with the Blackhawks? Money, I'm guessing? I'm not sure there's a real reason that's public, but you know what? I'm going to get on our show, our Cats and Bolts podcast, Dale Talon, probably next week, not this week, but he was the GM of the Blackhawks and was the GM of the Florida Panthers. I think it's just when it's time, it's time. It had been 16 years. Both Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane told management in Chicago they weren't in it for a rebuild. They didn't want to be around for a rebuild. Stan Bowman said, there's the door. 16 seasons, 3 Stanley Cups. It was time. End of story. He looked last night for all the world like he could still play in Chicago and still contribute, but they were just kind of over each other. Trust me, it happens. Ali in Texarkana says, the wedding singer, Robbie. So there's a few. We'll continue this theme rolling, and Moose, I'll see you in hour 2.
You bet. See you then.
We'll put your questions and some of my own to James Roberts from the Offside Hockey Podcast. They cover the Leafs. When we come back, we are live on the Game Plus Television Network, WQEE Radio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Live.
Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, has led to this. It's out of your hands now. All the gold medals in the world can't help you now. You could throw the perfect rock and still miss, but it just takes one. You leave it all out there on the ice to leave behind a legacy.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at IKSGameDay.com.
The sports landscape continues to change, and teams and facilities are under more pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. They need the right team to deliver their product. Look no further than IKS Live. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience across all platforms.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
At the Key Auto Group Pre-Owned Division, we're bringing back that new car feeling. No matter what, it's new to you and priced just right. No hidden fees, prices you can trust, and upfront buying experience. And it's all at keyautogroup.ca.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Send us your opinions now. We won't victimize you unless you really deserve it. Now, back to your host, Rod Pedersen.
Hey, everybody, the old RP show continues. And as you probably know, when we talk hockey, it's brought to you by Common Crown Brewing out of Calgary, 28th Street Northeast. A commitment to connection and celebration of uniqueness. Visit commoncrown.ca. And we are talking hockey. Why not? It's February. And to do that, we're bringing in our friend James Roberts from the Offside Hockey Podcast. He's in the Maritimes. G'day, James. I'm sure everything's all good with you. Maybe not as good as it is with Tyler Bertuzzi. Became the first Toronto Maple Leaf in the franchise's storied history to record a hat trick on their birthday. He did it in the Leafs' 4-3 win over Colorado Saturday night. I feel like the Leafs nation's still celebrating that big win Saturday. Are you one of them?
Yeah, well, obviously that game right there, we look back a few Saturdays, the Leafs had a 3-0 lead. They blew that lead to Colorado, so it was a little revenge. And obviously Tyler Bertuzzi getting a hat trick on his birthday, it's just a cherry on top of his cake. So absolutely, I'm fired up for it, man. That was a game where I think the Leafs kind of quieted some haters, quieted some folks that were saying, hey, this team's winning, that's great, but they're not beating any quality opponents.
Are you one of those? Where do you fall? You would never call yourself a hater, but where are you in that group of Leaf fandom?
I mean, for me, I looked at it and said, same thing I said to you last time. It's great to be winning these games, but you got to keep to the details and make sure everything's good. And this team was doing that with Morgan Rielly out, and they were rallying for Morgan Rielly. And any other team who did that with a superstar of their lineup, whether suspension or injury, reporters, the league, whoever, would be triumphing that. Oh my God, this team is rallying without their number one defenseman. The injuries, they were sick. There was all kinds of things plaguing the Leafs, and they're still winning games. But everybody, instead of choosing that narrative, of course, it's the Maple Leafs. They're not beating great teams. They're just beating the teams they're supposed to beat. But then Vegas, I know they were injury depleted, but their defense was still there. Their goaltending was still there. So those are two key cogs for that team. They still beat them handily. And then you beat Colorado. Not only do you beat them, but you come back and show that even when you go down and you don't have your best game, you still find a way to win. And what do good teams do, Rod? They find a way to get a victory.
You know, I thought about our chat afterwards the last time, and I was never saying that you were wrong. It's just, a lot of Leaf fans are never satisfied. And I'm going to parallel it or use, in a way, a sports metaphor. With both the Miami Dolphins here and my team, the Dallas Cowboys, all year it was you can beat teams below you in the standings, but you can't beat teams above you in the standings, or you can't go up north and on the road and win. Well, that's exactly what happened in the playoffs. They couldn't do that. So kind of what you're saying is if the Leafs play in the playoffs the way they have been at times this regular season, they're going nowhere. But how confident are you that they could go on a run, or does it simply depend on the matchups, who they're facing in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Listen, Rod, if the team that's showing up right now with the Tyler Bertuzzi scoring, the Max Domi, you have a second and third line now with John Tavares playing with Bobby McMahon and Nick Robertson, not to factor in the fact Calle Yarncroke is not in this lineup either yet, which will be a penalty killer, which is their Achilles heel. I think if this version of the team that's been rolling lately shows up, they can beat anybody in the playoffs, handedly. And you got Joe Wool coming back as well to either be your starter or backup. So they're looking pretty darn good. Like, it looks like they're getting deadline additions without having to trade for them, if you know what I mean. Guys are finally starting to show up that you want to show up. Calle Yarncroke coming back, Joe Wool coming back. Most teams would love to trade for a Calle Yarncroke or a Joe Wool. So I'm loving it, man.
Well, you went there, the TD word, trade deadline. I'm seeing not just fans, but a lot of respected media pundits saying, what does this team need? What does that team need? I'm hearing it for Vancouver. What are you saying for the Leafs that they need in advance of the trade deadline?
The Leafs need someone to play with Morgan Rielly. You don't want to break up the pairings that have been clicking. So you find someone, whether it's Tanev, whether it's Dumba, whether it's Sealer, Walker, whatever name. It doesn't have to be a hugely sexy name. It just has to be someone to play with Rielly. And then the other thing is, this team needs a bona fide penalty killer in their bottom six. I keep beating the drum for Blake Coleman. He's a guy I think that could really fit the mold, has the championship pedigree, went through the playoffs, knows the grind. But this team needs a bottom six penalty killer and a defenseman to play with Mo Rielly, which then probably pushes Giordano out of the lineup. And maybe there's something cooking today. We don't know yet. Timothy Liljegren is not at practice. So we'll see what happens there with him today, if he's in their trade or he's injured or whatever, and they have to bring somebody back up. So we'll see what happens.
Knowing full well that it's an 82-game marathon and then the playoffs, at what time do you think they need to put the hammer down or put it into overdrive and go all out the rest of the way? Unless you think they should for 82 games, which is impossible. I'm kind of thinking that it's maybe the trade deadline. That's when you go hammer down. But for you, when do you think that needs to be?
I think they should go hammer down as of right now. You're on a 7-game heater. Keep trying to pick up as many points as you can. Keep the spacing between the teams below you, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Detroit Red Wings. Don't let them get back in it. But this is the first time in years, Rod, this team has a little adversity going down the stretch. They have teams that can catch them. They have teams ahead of them that they want to catch. So they're not exactly locked in. Tampa can go on a heater and start winning games. Detroit's right there as well. So this team needs to start now, in my opinion. And you know what? I think you look towards the end of the season and start pulling guys back and seeing what you have in the cupboards for anybody who's nicked up. And one guy that comes to mind that may get signed ahead of the trade deadline is Kiefer Bellows down in the AHL. Hit the 20-goal mark in the AHL, is looking good, could be a good depth option for you as well. So you got to see what you have to.
Ted in Red Deer says, he says, what would Austin Matthews have to do in his career to be top 3 all time? And while number 1, I don't think even top 3 all time is achievable by anybody. I don't. But I've heard people say he could be the greatest Leaf ever. And I want to say Rick Vives said that on this show. Some former Leaf said that he might be the best Leaf ever right now. Austin Matthews.
There's many former Leafs who said it.
Yeah, so what does it take for him to cement that best all time in Toronto?
Well, really right now, I would already say arguably, I mean, if you're comparing him to the Wendell Clarks and the Gilmores and all those guys that, you know, are put up on a pedestal by Leafs Nation, he's surpassing those guys in points and in metrics and leadership and in trophies and all individual awards. If he wins one cup, he is hands down the greatest Leaf of all time. But right now, how do you argue against the fact that he already isn't? He's already won a league MVP. He's won Rocket Richard trophies. He's in conversations this year for Selke. This guy is insane. He plays in every different position too. Power play, penalty kill, even strength. This guy is up and down your lineup. Players who play with him get better. So, I mean, what more can this guy possibly do? And he may end up being the greatest goal scorer the National Hockey League has ever seen. People are already starting to compare him to the pace of Ovechkin and saying, well, he's on a higher pace than Ovi. Maybe this guy could break, if Ovi breaks Gretzky's record, maybe Matthews breaks Ovi's record. And that conversation's already started. by people that are way up on the scale than me. But I fully agree. If this guy can keep scoring like he is, how do you not keep him out of that conversation?
It is a great question. But I was thinking about Ovi here the other night, and I'm like, whether you like the way he plays or not, you can't argue with what he's done. You can't, right? He's won the Hart, I think it's 3 times, got a Stanley Cup, got a Conn Smythe. He won the Calder 9 times. I think he's won the Maurice Richard, but he's not on the Mount Rushmore. The gentleman said to be top 3 all time. Well, who's on the Mount Rushmore of the NHL? Gretzky, Howe, or... And we'd have to think for the 4th, but I don't think it's Austin Matthews. Lemieux, okay, it ain't Austin Matthews. There's not a lot of room on the Mount Rushmore of the National Hockey League, not for Austin Matthews.
No, I would say he has a chance to maybe be top 15 of all time in the National Hockey League. And by that, I'd say probably 15. And that's if he goes out and breaks Gretzky and Ovi's goal-scoring record if Ovi gets it. That's if he gets a Stanley Cup. That's if he gets a couple more Hart trophies. But he's got, like, everybody's talking about all this stuff as if his career is winding down. It's not winding down. It's in the thick of it right now, and probably in the thick of it for the next, 8 to 9 years. So let's see what he does, halfway through that stretch and where he is.
David in Winnipeg says, Crosby on the Mount Rushmore? I wouldn't say no, but it's a debate we don't have any more time for here. James, good to see you, my man. Enjoy the hockey. We'll do it in the playoffs.
Always. Look forward to it, man. Enjoy your time down in Florida. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, pal. James Roberts joining us from the Offside Hockey Podcast. We got a sports update and audience takeover when we come back. We are live on Game Plus TV, WQEE Radio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Live.
Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, has led to this. It's out of your hands now. All the gold medals in the world can't help you now. You can throw the perfect rock and still miss, but it just takes one. You leave it all out there on the ice to leave behind a legacy. Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, has led to this. It's out of your hands now. All the gold medals in the world can't help you now. You can throw the perfect rock and still miss, but it just takes one. You leave it all out there on the ice to leave behind a legacy.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Did you know you can catch all the best moments from the show on all our social media platforms? Now, back to the studio with Rod.
Hi, everybody. Going to try and rip through these comments as quickly as possible and get to a sports update, but we got some gooders. I was talking about Alex Ovechkin. He left me wanting. I was disappointed with his effort the other night here in the Capitals' OT loss to the Florida Panthers. Ryan Thomas is watching in the Queen City. He writes it, and he says, effort or not, Ovi is passing Gretzky for sure. He's 56 goals back, 38 years of age. There's no reason to think he won't play into his 40s. But, and that's just him. He's not always giving full effort. But I'll tell you this about Austin Matthews. He is. Austin Matthews is. There's nothing that I see that you can criticize Austin Matthews for. That's just me. Regarding Atlanta team names, Brian in Hudson Bay writes in, he says, how about the Atlanta Red Hots? That's not bad either. I don't know if there's some association there to Atlanta and the Red Hots. I don't know. Is that where the Red Hot tamales are made? David in Winnipeg writes in and he says, Atlanta team names? Do you think a third time is a charm for the NHL in Atlanta? Are you writing off the Jets franchise in Winnipeg? Don't have time for that here. We'll carry it over into next segment. Greg Martin writes in. He says, I can't believe you didn't mention the Flames beating the Oilers. Well, believe it. Calgary won 6-3 Saturday night. It's a 2-hour show. You poked your head out enough, just enough of complaining about the Flames to rub it in everybody's face that they beat the Oilers? Yeah. Pick a lane. There are 4 games in the NHL tonight with 2 Canadian teams in action. The Oilers, who have lost 3 in a row, host the LA Kings. Senators visit the Washington Capitals. The BC Lions announced today the signing of American defensive back Jordan Perriman to the training camp roster. He played his senior season with the Washington Huskies, had 37 tackles, 1 pass breakup across 10 games, and in the Alamo Bowl had 5 tackles. There are 4 games in the NBA tonight, including 1 in Indy between the Pacers and visiting Toronto Raptors. Sports updates brought to you by Common Crown Brewing Company, turning your everyday common beer into a unique and exceptional experience. Visit commoncrown.ca. And for Landmark Cinemas in theaters now, Argyle, starring as Samuel L. Jackson, Bryan Cranston, and John Cena. I walked out, but maybe you'll like it more. Hour 2 coming up after this brief pause on Game Plus and Key Radio.
At the Key Auto Group Pre-Owned Division, we're bringing back that new car feeling. No matter what, it's new to you and priced just right. No hidden fees, prices you can trust, an upfront buying experience. And it's all at keyautogroup.ca.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
The sports landscape continues to change, and teams and facilities are under more pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. They need the right team to deliver their product. Look no further than IKS Live. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience across all platforms.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at iksgameday.com.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
And we were on the road with the Rough Riders. Joe Womack was our strength coach, and he was rooming with Ron Estee. I'm coming down the elevator with Joe Womack, and he is so mad. And I'm like, what's wrong, Joe? And he goes, you wouldn't believe what Estee did. He's in his underwear, and he emptied the minibar. Smarties and the Kit Kats, thinking it's free, thinking it was a gift basket. And Joe looks at me, it ain't fun.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Yes, it is. And it's hour 2. And thank you for tuning in wherever you may be tuning in from and however you may be tuning in. Game Plus TV, Key Radio down there in Atlanta, where we've had a lot popping today at Key Radio, your southern home of sports and talk. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Live. That's where you're finding us. And I'm in the Florida studio. Moose is in the Toronto studio. We had a nice little Leafs update there with James Roberts last hour from the podcast Offside Hockey Talk. So a few things, Darren, where we don't strictly stick to sports talk here. We have more time. And I just want to say that movie reviews, Landmark Cinemas is one of our longest serving partners on this show. Landmark Cinemas all across Canada. They sponsor our show. And so I went to Argyle because I thought it looked really good. I like Samuel L. Jackson, and I like Bryan Cranston, and I like John Cena. I thought the movie was awful. Have you seen Argyle, by the way? Have you seen it?
I have, yeah.
Did you like it?
I did. But it was one of those movies for me that the way it started, I don't want to ruin the movie, but the way it started and kind of where they went with the plot, I thought it was going one way, and then they switched, and it was going another way, and I'm like, this isn't what I thought it was or what I kind of was hoping it would be. And then I stayed till the end, and I ended up really liking the movie.
Well, maybe I didn't give it enough time. But, I did pay for it. I didn't have my little movie card that gets us in for free, and I still walked out. I was sitting there probably halfway through, going, my popcorn's gone, my Twizzlers are gone, my Diet Coke's gone. I'm either going to go need a refill or just leave. And I'm not really enjoying this anyways. I mean, like, when I read these trailers, or what do you call them? Teasers? When I read them on here, they're never anything like what the movie is. I'm like, are we talking about the same? And I'm like, this is another spy movie on a bullet train. Insert your own ending. Do you know what I mean? Like, was I in the right theater? Was that the movie that you saw? The redheaded girl?
Yeah.
The writer?
No. Yeah. Absolutely.
I was at the right one. Okay.
Okay. I don't know. Did you get to the big twist?
No. I don't think so.
Well, there is a big twist.
I'm also.
But yeah, they got to get your attention really fast, and that movie doesn't do it.
No, I'm an adrenaline junkie, a squirrel. What? And the other thing is, unless it's Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, I'm not going to go down for, a motorcycle goes 40 yards and back and up and down and spin around. You know what I mean? Like, this couldn't happen in real life. So why am I watching it here now? It's almost a sci-fi meets spy meets bullet train. Seen it a bunch of other times in other movies. Goodbye. So I can't like every movie. So I'm just being honest. 2 thumbs down from the Monday morning goalie. We'll come back and visit the movie Bob Marley's, because you went to that the other night. But we are not Siskel and Ebert. Although, did those guys ever have the world by the cojones? Woo. Go watch movies and talk about it on international television every Saturday. What a great life. I'm just dropping in some comments from everybody, leftovers from hour 1. Richard is watching in Edmonton. And regarding Arlen Bruce's son, who's facing a lifetime ban from the CFL for betting on games while he was in the NCAA. Like, say it out loud. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I said, how long is the kid going to have to pay for this? And Richard in Edmonton says Pete Rose is still paying for his gambling. Doesn't make it right. Right? Yeah, he is. But sins committed as a teen are going to follow you for the rest of your life. That's awful to me. Do you want to take a swing at whose side you're on this? Because I'm upset at the CFL for not signing the kid. But that's just me. Whose side are you
and
on?
That's where I lean too, because we're both second chance people, and how long is long enough, and what's best for the league. I guess in the short is I don't have enough information, and to know exactly. The league hasn't come out and said, from what I've seen, why they haven't honored the contract or voided it, and what their official stance is.
Do they need
but,
to?
But it's not good.
Do they need to?
No, and if the kid is getting interest from the NFL, not that you want to turn a blind eye to everything, you don't want to do that, but at some point, the player has served his time, right? At some point, he's served his time.
Well, his college eligibility ran out while still serving the penalty for the wagering on his team's games while at Iowa. But I can tell you what, if the CFL is not going to sign him, I would be stunned if the NFL would allow any team to sign him based on where they're at with gambling. But that's my take there. And, the older I get looking back, and let's remember these are all young men, I look at, and he's real young, but I look at Johnny Manziel. CFL allowed Manziel in. Look what that idiot said on the weekend. Did you see the headline of Johnny Manziel, how he's lost 40 pounds? Did you see? Because it was all over my timeline. Johnny Football.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was real or not.
I'm sure it was. Manziel brags. He lost 40 pounds on a cocaine diet. Way to go, Johnny. Way to go. You blooming idiot. And then Chad Kelly with Toronto. I mean, I don't know the bottom of that. I had a guy call me on Saturday. He goes, do you want to know the inside of that? I'm like, no, I don't. Goodbye. I don't want to know. But what I'm seeing is there are a lot of guys that are getting second chances and blowing them. And maybe they're just not willing to afford Arlen Bruce IV that second chance. I think it's disappointing, but there's a lot of guys blowing it that aren't making it good for people that are advocates of second, third, fourth, and fifth chances. Kelly McDonald writes in, he is watching in the Queen City. He says, happy birthday to number 80, Donald Narcisse. My favorite.
How about that?
All-time American Rough Rider. See what I did there? American Rough Rider. Did the narco dance?
That was always the
That was
best.
so great back in the day. And then the Flames fans are alive. We haven't heard from them forever. Trevor in Red Deer writes and he says, good morning from snowy and cold Red Deer, Alberta. Woot, woot to the Flames for the huge 6-3 beatdown of the Oilers on Saturday. Hannafin's stock went way up. Looking forward to seeing how the trades will work out once they happen. And then this guy, Greg Martin in Calgary, wrote in last hour. He says, I can't believe you didn't mention the Flames beating the Oilers as part of our weekend leftovers or whatever. Well, number one, it was 2 nights ago. It's pretty focused on what happened yesterday. And I'm like, come on, Flames fans. Now, you guys all want to, na boo boo, our team won. And yet most of the year they're sitting there complaining about how crappy they are and fire Huska. Trust me, I see the mentions. Against my own peril, I go into the Flames Twitter and Facebook posts and see how pissed off people are in Calgary. But they win 1 game. Or in this case, I think they've won 3 in a row. Or the Battle of Alberta. I mean, there's something to be said for you can lose. Actually, Ken King said that to me. We could lose every game all year, but as long as we beat Edmonton, our fans are happy. Yeah, Ken, well, maybe that's the problem that you have. Kelly Rempel says it many times, and I'm hoping to get him on the air here tomorrow, the Silver Fox. If you're not contending to win, if you're not a front runner and a contender, then you should be scrapping everything and doing whatever you can to become a contender to win. Because Calgary is not in the echelon of the Colorados and the Rangers and the Vegases. They're not. There's like legit, Darren, 10 or 11 teams that could win the Stanley Cup. And there's probably 15 that think they will. Flames aren't one of them. So why are you hanging on to these guys? And why are you celebrating a Saturday night win at Edmonton that really doesn't mean anything? That's my take on that. You?
Yeah, it's a tough spot because the more they win, the more that the fans will want them to go in and add pieces and try and contend. And you got to be careful because, you know, largely could be false hope and likely is false hope. And that's a hard thing to you know, come to terms with. When you see a team winning, you see them beating Edmonton and you think, okay, we did this. We played really well. And now we think we can do it every night. It's just not the case. You know, we've seen San Jose win some games this year. Doesn't mean they're going to do it every game. Doesn't mean they're going to do it in a playoff series. It makes it really tough. So this is just making the Band-Aid a lot harder to rip off, but it still needs to be ripped off.
Well, and listen, now isn't the time, and this isn't the show for this, but when I see people arguing about what's a real fan and what isn't, like when Jock Wilson came in here on Friday, which incidentally, he was the rock star of the day on Friday, Jock Wilson, saying the Flames are the biggest idiots on the planet if they trade Jacob Markstrom. People were writing into our social media channels, Flames fans, saying, no, we want to get rid of him. We don't want to have a number 1 goalie. We want to tank it. And in a weird, perverse way, I get it. That doesn't mean that you are not a fan of your team. You want to tank it, skid as much as you can, get a first-round pick back. I think that's in the Toffoli trade, if they finish in the bottom 10 or whatever, and finish as low as you can to have a chance to win the lottery. So, and that's your way of cheering for the team. That doesn't make you any less of a fan than these guys that are celebrating beating the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday night 6-3. It doesn't. Cheer for your team however you want. News out of Toronto today. Robert Campbell in Las Vegas, who came to our Super Bowl party, and thank you, Robert, for that. Cool dude, by the way, Robert Campbell. He says, Rasheed Bailey signs with the Argos, veteran receiver. He says, who's going to be throwing him the ball? Rhetorical question. We're not going to answer that because we don't know the answer. Regarding the Arlen Bruce IV thing, signing with the Edmonton Elks at the CFL, then having the CFL void the contract, not giving a reason, but we think it's because of his gambling violations in college football. Jason in Red Deer writes in, and he says, I would think a league desperate for increased viewership would get over themselves and sign AB 4. And I'm like, yes, but... Okay, thank you, John Chan. I'm not sure where he is. I think he's in Winnipeg, though. Somebody clarify this for me. He says, how will Gary Bettman handle his Tuesday meetup in Winnipeg? Which city will he threaten to move the Jets to? Thank you for changing topics on this. Because the news dropped on Friday. The article came out Friday morning about Mark Chipman saying it's not sustainable long-term what's happening with ticket revenue in Winnipeg. And then we went into the weekend. We never really had a lot of, plus it was football Friday, so we didn't spend a lot of time on it. So, and then Bettman's meeting, with the Jets today in the media? Is it because of Chipman's comments Friday? Was this a pre-scheduled thing? Because I got to think Bettman's schedule's planned like at least a month in advance. Either way, how do you think Gary Bettman handles this? It's not a tempest in the teapot. It's like it's a grenade that Chipman pulled the pin on, and he's just holding it, deciding what to do with it. That's what happened on Friday, I think, in Winnipeg. What do you think he does?
Yeah, it's a delicate situation, and there's no more delicate situation than pulling the pin on a grenade and having it in your hand, wondering what to do. That's pretty delicate. Gary Bettman, I think, has to come in and probably calm the waters a little bit, especially since they moved him out. I don't think he's going to come in or should come in and start threatening and throwing around threats about where to move the team. And, if you guys and blaming the fans, I don't think that's an option. But I think, you can continue to sound the alarm bells and say what the real concerns are, that, in this market, you need fans to show up. You need revenue to keep the team around, but we're willing to work together. That's what we want to hear, that the league is, as if you're a Winnipegger, you want to hear that the league is interested in keeping the team in Winnipeg. I think that's what you want to hear from Gary Bettman.
So he's going to lie.
Well,
which is a commissioner. So, okay. Number one, John Ohm writes in all caps. He says, the Jets are not moving anywhere soon. See how you've had to add a word to that phrase, John? You used to say they're not moving anywhere. Now you've added soon. Jeff, the Stamps fan, says Jets fans better start taking this seriously instead of denying the problem. And John Ohm also writes in and says, Bettman is meeting with season ticket holders, media, and team officials. Okay, this has got the comments going. Thank you. See, that's the thing. To sit and talk about the Flames beating Edmonton, not that interesting to me. Nelson, I get that you're excited, but it doesn't mean anything. Nelson, our VP of Sim Events, says it's wild how the NHL treats Winnipeg's ticket sales differently than Arizona's whole existence as a franchise, which ironically happened because of the previous Jets. Nelson, you didn't read my 10 Things column on the weekend, so for those that didn't, I'll save you the time. Everybody's comparing what's going on with the Winnipeg Jets now with what's going on with the Arizona Coyotes now. It's what's called whataboutism. What about them? What about them? And as we say in the counseling world, or my parents would yell at me, we're not talking about them. We're talking about you. Alex Murillo, the owner of the Coyotes, is not whining about lack of funds. He's not whining about the lack of attendance or a small arena. He's never threatened or rung the alarm bell one time in Arizona. Not once. Because you know why? He doesn't need to. And by the way, people coming back at me saying David Thompson, the majority owner or whatever he is of the Jets, he's worth $45 billion. He's got more money than Murillo. I don't care. Am I speaking another language, Darren? Should we put subtitles across the bottom or like text? Rich people didn't get rich by throwing their money away. And I said it last week, but I'll say it again. I've never met a rich person that doesn't put themselves first. So they're not going to sit there while the water goes up and up and up and up on the Winnipeg Jets. They're not going to do that. They're not going to absorb the losses. I've known NHL owners that got out. I'm not going to say which ones, but I'll never forget sitting with one who told me that he lost $50 million US the year before on his $50 million US. He said it like you and I lost $50, but he's like, I can't do this forever. And a few years later, he sold the team. He's like, I don't care how much money you have. You can't keep losing money like this, like he was with his team. So I know these Winnipeg fans want to cover their ears and no, and ignore the problem. And it's not even their problem. There is a guy here in South Florida. I won't say what town because some people might know him from Winnipeg. And I was with him on Friday. And he goes, the socioeconomic issues of the city of Winnipeg are real. Everybody knows them. He goes, it's a larger upper class and it's gotten to be a larger lower class. And it's not sustainable to support an NHL team. They got a lot of problems in Winnipeg that have nothing to do with an NHL team. And the economics just aren't there to support a team with salaries going up and up and up and the cost of having an NHL team. It's just the way that it is. And that guy in Arizona, he didn't care about any of it. He's got more money than God. He's not worried about losing his team. So stop comparing your situation in Winnipeg to what's going on in Arizona because it's not comparable. We need to break. That's the bell. Saved by the bell, Darren. We'll be right back. And on the way, Josh Getzoff, the voice of the Pittsburgh Penguins. We're live on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Live.
Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, has led to this. It's out of your hands now. All the gold medals in the world can't help you now. You could throw the perfect rock and still miss, but it just takes one. You leave it all out there on the ice to leave behind a legacy.
The sports landscape continues to change, and teams and facilities are under more pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. They need the right team to deliver their product. Look no further than IKS Live. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience across all platforms.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, has led to this. It's out of your hands now. All the gold medals in the world can't help you now. You could throw the perfect rock and still miss, but it just takes one. You leave it all out there on the ice to leave behind a legacy.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop staffed by PGA of Canada professionals is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Send us your opinions now. We won't victimize you unless you really deserve it. Now, back to your host, Rod Pedersen.
Hey, everybody. The RP Show continues. It's hour 2, and man, we're in one. I'm not sure whether that's good or bad, but hey, in case you didn't hear, where's my bell? Oh, I dropped it, right. Rachel Holman of Ontario won the Canadian Women's Curling Championship Sunday night in Calgary with a dramatic 5-4 win over Jennifer Jones of Manitoba. And with that, JJ is retiring from women's curling. Thanks to all those who watched this show and purchased tickets because of it. And now you can be at the Briar in Regina, along with the RP Show. We'll be broadcasting live from the Brand Center. You can get your tickets at curling.ca/tickets. And coming up tomorrow, Benny Hebert will be with us from Team Botcher, previewing the Montana's Briar in the Queen City. This show today, Darren DuPont, has been more fun than planned, and it's always fun. And something that just came to my mind earlier was, what's the one movie that when you see it on your channel grid, you're channel surfing at home, you always stop and put it on when you see it. You hadn't planned to watch it, but it's on, so you're going to watch it. And for me, it's Hangover movies 1, 2, and 3. And there are others, but that came to mind first. Michael at Ice Time Sports in Winnipeg writes in. He watches us every day on Game Plus TV in his store. Hey, Michael. He says, White House down all day. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Who's the guy in it that I joke called him Captain America? I can never remember. Chandler Tatum? Isn't he in that?
Channing Tatum. Yeah, Channing Tatum's in it.
Channing Tatum? Yeah. White House down. That's a good one. Have you thought of any more? People have said earlier, Dumb and Dumber. Of course, you always stop and watch that.
They're all good.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah, they're all good. Liar Liar was the one that I've... And the reason is, like, I don't sit and surf movies at home. It's Netflix, it's Amazon, it's those, the streaming services. So you flip through. But whenever I'm on the road, in the hotel, you flip on the TV and the guide and what comes on, right? It's usually an old movie like that. That's usually pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot. Stephen from North Dakota writes in, and he says, greetings and no hallucinations from sunny North Dakota. I enjoyed the dry humor in the movie Argyle. Approved. There was humor in the movie Argyle? Honestly, there was humor in it? I didn't find it funny at all. I'm not surprised, though, that Stephen from North Dakota does, because there's been many times we've been out where he says things and I stare at him. That's not funny. And as a matter of fact, if you keep up with these jokes, you're going to get us kicked out of this place that we're in. It's a long story. When I say we're in one, it has to do with the Winnipeg Jets' financial situation. And I said it last week, I'll say it here again. Are people listening to this? I don't mind talking about the painful things that people don't want to talk about because they're too painful. I do it for a living in the recovery industry as a licensed and certified interventionist and recovery coach, an addiction and mental health recovery coach. I'm okay talking about this. I know you're not, but we are. We need to get it out. And John Chan, who started this whole conversation, writes in, he says, I fully agree, Rod. David Thompson is in this to make money. It's not a charity. And yet, that's the one thing with the public. They think, oh, they're going to take care of us. They're going to take care of us. No, they're not. And you'll realize that once they stop and take the team away. Jason in Red Deer Jason in Winnipeg, regarding Gary Bettman's meeting in Winnipeg today. And folks, can you tell me when it is? Do you know, Clark? Is it this afternoon? Is it tonight? Either way, Jason Yeah, he doesn't. None of us are aware. Let us know when Bettman is meeting with the people in Winnipeg. Jason writes in and he says, I think Gary Bettman's in Winnipeg to hopefully get companies to invest in season tickets. Hopefully it will increase the corporate tickets from 15% to something more comparable to other Canadian teams. Signed, Jason. Bob in Saskatoon writes in and he says, Bettman hates Winnipeg. He said it in 2011. He wants to go to Salt Lake City. He's pro-American. He goes on to say, I used to live in Winnipeg. Portage in Maine. Dale Howardchuk. I can't. Proofread your texts, please. But it goes back, when you start talking about getting the corporate businesses to buy more season tickets, you might as well start having bake sales. Again, it's just a matter of time. And the gentleman that wrote in here and said that David Thompson wants to turn it into a business. He wants to make money. It's not a charity. I'll be honest. It reminds me a lot of my beloved Regina Pats hockey team, the one for which I was the broadcaster for 20 years and grew up. They were my NHL. So I love them the way you people love the Winnipeg Jets, or wherever you all are out there, whatever team you love, my team's the Regina Pats. But the guy that owns them now, Brandt Industries, they manufacture tractors and trailers, multi-billion-dollar company. They jacked the tickets up to over $40. And while you may laugh at that and say compared to Jets tickets or Oilers tickets, it's junior hockey. And then when you can get a Panthers ticket here for $30, think about that. And what I believe is he wants to make it a moneymaker, or he's not interested. He'll sell the team. And I stand on the concourse at games and talk to my friends, and they bitch about the price of tickets. Now, this was last year when Bedard was there, but he's not there anymore, and the ticket prices haven't gone down. And they bitch at me. And I said, stop bitching. You're here. You're paying it. So until you're willing to not pay it, shut your pie hole, as Biznasty said last night. And in Winnipeg, they're now saying we can't afford to buy the tickets. And guess what the team's saying? Buy tickets or we'll be gone. I know that's quite a monologue from me. Do you have anything before I read some more comments from the viewers?
No, it's a crux. And, you know, the team won't take action. Things won't change from a team perspective. Like you just said, you know, expensive tickets, cost of going to a game, concessions, all the rest. Those prices aren't going to come down unless you stop going and you stop paying and you stop buying. And if that's happening, then they'll have to make a decision about lowering those prices to get more people in the stands, or, you know, like they're talking about, maybe not sticking around Winnipeg.
This Elias McCracken writes in, and he says, quote, if you don't buy my product, I'm going to close my business. Ridiculous. Yeah, you can say that, but it's not the same. It's an NHL team. They're saying, if you don't buy our tickets, we're leaving town. Do you understand? Joe's Bakery, if he throws up that big of a fight, you're just going to go to the next bakery down the street. Owners of sports teams can do that, and they're doing that. Do you see, Darren, where they're refusing to acknowledge what's happening right before their eyes?
Yeah, doesn't make it right or wrong that, you know, a team is coming out and putting it on the fans like that. The fans are feeling, hey, like it's not our team. It's not our business. We want to support the team and go to the games, but we can't afford it. You know, don't take our team away. Well, at the end of the day, what does everybody do? Everybody does what's best for them, right? And when cost of living gets too high and we can't afford to go to the games, we do what's best for us and we watch them on TV, or we don't go. But also, you got to understand that business owner and the owners of the Jets are going to do what's best for them as well, which might be to explore other markets. You know, you hope that doesn't happen, but everybody's going to do what's best for them.
It's getting real. And no amount of throwing a fit, covering your ears, stomping your feet is going to change this. If you can't afford to go, you can't afford to go, and I don't blame you. I don't go to Dolphins games. I go to one game a year. I buy a ticket for $500 US, and that's 50% off. And the only reason I go is because I got friends in town that want to go. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This isn't worth this. But I pay it once a year. Comments coming in left and right, and some have to do with what movie do you stop and watch every time you see it on your cable. Jeff the Stamps fan says, got to be Goodfellas for me. Jason in Red Deer says, my movie is Bad Boys, 1, 2, or 3. It doesn't matter. I get up and now I'm reading the South Florida news. They're shutting down the A1A Moose for like a week just north of Fort Lauderdale because they're filming Bad Boys 4.
That's hot.
That won't be going over real well. But I thought about taking Goldie down there and just doing a little putt, driving around, seeing if I can see Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. Just see them. Because that Jeep goes everywhere, man. That's why I bought it. Darren in Utah. He says all 4 major sports have priced out the average fan. I told you last week, Panthers fans here upset that they got their letter from the Panthers. Their playoff ticket prices have doubled from last year. Those $1,200 tickets are now $2,400 per seat, per game. And regarding $40 Pats tickets, where's Jason? Jason in Red Deer says $40? Man, I thought Rebels tickets were high at $25. It ain't for junior hockey. But anyways, is Josh Getzoff in? Ready to roll? Okay, we're going to take a timeout. And I think, Darren, you got to come back for overtime. Are you okay to do that? Because we can do it real fast. There's only 4 games. Bet Regals Breakaway Bets, NHL games tonight. Now, there's only 4. Ottawa at Washington tonight, a battle of the capital teams. Who wins?
Give me Ottawa.
Okay, perfect, because I'm taking Washington. New York Islanders at the Dallas Stars. Who wins?
Stars.
Me too. Approved. LA Kings at the Edmonton Oilers. Who wins?
Give me the Oilers.
I'll take the Kings just because. And Boston at Seattle. Who wins?
I'll take Boston.
I'll take the Seattle Kraken at home. It's been a long road trip for the Bruins. Okay, now you're done. See you, Moose.
Later.
The radio voice of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Josh Getzoff, joins us next. We're live on the Game Plus Television Network, WQEE Radio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Live.
Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, has led to this. It's out of your hands now. All the gold medals in the world can't help you now. You could throw the perfect rock and still miss, but it just takes one. You leave it all out there on the ice to leave behind a legacy.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, has led to this. It's out of your hands now. All the gold medals in the world can't help you now. You could throw the perfect rock and still miss, but it just takes one. You leave it all out there on the ice to leave behind a legacy.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors. There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life. Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Oh, yeah, he's back. Time for more of the Rod Pedersen Show.
We are live on Game Plus TV across all of Canada and 31 U.S. states, also on the radio in Atlanta, WQEE. Hey, Drew O'Connor and Ricard Raquel each scored less than 2 minutes apart in the third period to break open a tie game, and the Pittsburgh Penguins went on to beat Philadelphia 7-6 on Sunday. Sidney Crosby had a goal and 3 assists. Josh Getzoff called the game, and it was a wild one, and he joins us today. Josh, I appreciate the time as always, and I got a question for you. As a guy that's called a hockey game or two in my day, did you run out of room on your score sheet in that 7-6 Pens win yesterday? That's terrible when that happens. I thought that wasn't just me. Yeah. Is he going to hit refresh, Josh, if you don't mind? We have the audio. Now we don't have the audio. And I feel like he was pulling up his score sheet, because the old score sheets that I had when I was calling the virtual thousands of games that I did only had like 12 spots. That game yesterday in Pittsburgh at PBG Paints Arena was a broadcaster's nightmare in a lot of ways. And it harkens back to our poll question last week of what kind of hockey do you like the most, a high-scoring game, a low-scoring game, or both? And what was going on in Pittsburgh yesterday was a travesty for coaches. Okay, we got you, Josh. Okay, it looked like you were pulling up your score sheet. What was it like yesterday?
Yeah, hey, Rod. Good to talk to you. Yeah, this was my score sheet. Pretty much full. I only had a few more brackets left there to try to get it going. But it took me pretty much the whole way through to get everything written down there. And there was a lot of names and a lot of goals, and it went back and forth pretty much all afternoon long. But for the Penguins, it was a game they had to win, and they got it. So that was the most important thing at the end of the day.
They got to win pretty much every game the rest of the way. But let me say, do you like a game like that? I'm a goalie guy, so I like low-scoring games. How did you feel about that game and games like that?
I think from the entertainment perspective, I liked it a lot. I think from the Penguins' perspective, you would have liked to seen a little bit more constriction in their defensive side of their game. And, you know, for their flaws this year, that's actually been something that they've been pretty good at. They're top 5 in the league in goals against, at least going into yesterday. Their team save percentage is top 5 in the league. But that game was, let's just hope it was a blip on the radar as far as the goals allowed and the opportunities surrendered type of situation. But from the goal scoring perspective, Rod, I mean, I'll be honest, it was a breath of fresh air. These last few games have been honestly, for the Penguins. They've now gotten points in 3 straight games. You mentioned Drew O'Connor scoring. You mentioned Rickard Rakell scoring. I mean, Emil Bemstrom scores in his Penguins debut yesterday. They got Marcus Pedersen chipping in and Chris Letang. It's really nice to see because obviously that 87 guy continues to produce at a ridiculous rate, but he needs some help around him. And the good news is here over the last few games, that's really started to kick in.
I don't know what it is, man. Every time you're on, I could talk to you for hours. And I try to be respectful of your time. I try to keep, but a lot of things come up. Like I heard a clip from Crosby on NHL radio this morning, and maybe you were in that scrum after the game. He said, they asked him, what is it about games with the Flyers that are just a gong show? And he goes, it's been going on since long before I was here. Right? It's obviously special every time those two teams get together.
Yeah, it's a different kind of feeling. I mean, I think that there's been a little bit of a lull the last couple of years, admittedly, probably by both sides. The Flyers were on the downswing. The Penguins obviously missed the playoffs last year. So the juice that comes with those matchups, particularly when the calendar flips in the middle of the season, it was there because it was the Battle of Pennsylvania, but it wasn't really there because of the meaningfulness of the game as it pertained to the standings or the playoffs or anything like that. Yesterday was different. I mean, the Penguins have 4 games in hand on Philly, who are currently 3rd in the Metro, and they're 7 points back. So I didn't take math after I graduated high school, Rob, but I'm smart enough to know that that means that they control their own destiny to moving into 3rd in the Metro with that win in regulation yesterday. So there was some juice in the building. There was some energy between those two teams. And I think, to the Flyers' credit, in a year where a lot of people thought they would be irrelevant and another lottery team, they're playing really meaningful games, and they might very well be in the playoffs when the season ends. So that's kind of added a layer to this where the Penguins, as you mentioned, they're in a situation where they need to win games. They need to stack victories. So I think that kind of emphasis on the game, that energy on the game just brought a whole different kind of level of intensity yesterday. And, it was a fun season series between these two teams. They split it. Penguins won 2, the Flyers won 2. And it was probably a good barometer of just how much more even these sides are than maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
We're broadcasters, so by default, we're not good at math, but we're good with words. So that's something. But
exactly.
Crosby, a goal and 3 assists. He looks 20. He doesn't look, what is he, 38? And by contrast, I watched Ovechkin here the other night in Sunrise, and we left disappointed. It was a half-hearted effort. He was pointless. He was -1. Whatever. Maybe it was just an off night. But there's not many nights I don't think you leave the rink going, Crosby didn't give his all. Does that ever happen?
No, very, very rarely, at least. I mean, I've been now calling the games here on the radio and the TV side for a better part of 5 or 6 seasons, but I've been around the Penguins for a decade, and between pre and post game shows and everything of the ilk, and I can honestly count on one hand the amount of times where you thought that Sidney Crosby did not give the Penguins every opportunity to push forward in a game. And maybe it was more so because of the team that he was playing against than his particular effort on certain nights. But this guy is just, I hesitate to say Mount Rushmore. I hesitate to say any of those top 5 players because his career's not done yet. But when you just look at the body of work and you look at the respect that he has from his peers, that's probably what means the most, right? Like you and I, we know how special he is. Fans understand how good he is. But when you hear guys like Brad Marchand, and I saw the quote from Trocheck at the All-Star game, and we know what McKinnon thinks about him, saying this guy is the best 200-foot player in the game still. He's the guy who young players should model themselves after. To me, that gets way more merit as far as where he stands in the game than what I think or what any of us, outside of the rink think. If the guys that he's playing against still look at this guy at 36 years old and putting up 60 points and scoring 30-plus goals and saying, wow, this guy's legitimately still one of the best players, if not the best all-around player to still do it on a consistent basis, that holds a lot of clout for me. So, I don't take any night for granted we get to see him in action. And to your point, I think as some of these other guys of his generation, I don't want to say have faded, but have seen, Father Time catch up just a little bit, where Sidney Crosby maybe would have had that happen to him. It simply hasn't. It's his work ethic. It's his drive. I mean, that part I do see every day because I watch him every day in practice. I'm in Vancouver right now where they're going to skate here in the next little bit. And I would bet he's one of the first guys off the ice. I would bet he's one of the last guys off the ice, even fresh after, as you mentioned, that 4-point game against Philly yesterday.
I won't keep you much longer. I guess the burning question I have is how important do you think it is to Kyle Dubas to make the playoffs in year one? Because he was brought in to save the day. And because of that, do you expect him to be active here before the deadline?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think, it's easy to say because we've kind of been laughing about it on the broadcast side the last little bit, that every game is the biggest game of the season, or this week is the biggest stretch of the season. With that being said, this is their biggest stretch of the season because they have Vancouver on Tuesday, Seattle on Thursday, and then a back-to-back with Calgary and Edmonton Saturday, Sunday before they go back to Pittsburgh for a 3-game homestand. So I think this trip is going to really be the barometer going into March as far as where they're at in the standings, what kind of ground, if any, they need to make up, what kind of ground is realistic to make up. And then Kyle can kind of make his decisions from there. But, to his own admission, things haven't played out how he dreamed it would. I mean, Erik Karlsson is picking up points, but there are flaws in his game that have hurt the Penguins this year. Let's just call it for what it is. I think when you look at Ryan Graves, he hasn't panned out initially to what they expected him to be in the sense of a top 4 defenseman who would eat a lot of minutes. I think Lars Eller's been a perfect addition, ditto for Noel Acciari. But Matt Nieto's been hurt. He hasn't really found his rhythm here. Riley Smith was hurt, and he's had an up and down season after a real fast start. So the pieces haven't all fit, I don't think, how he dreamed they would or how we all thought they would or hoped they would. But the good news is, like I mentioned, they're still in a position here where there is some optimism and there is some hope. I was talking to Paul Steigerwald, who we all know called Penguins games for a long time, and he said that he was at Penguins practice the other day, and Sidney Crosby kind of looked over at him and he said, we still have a chance here. And I believe that trickles down to the rest of the team. I think they really believe that they can get in and they have a chance to get in. And even though it looks like, and there is a big gap between them and the cut line right now, it can be made up with these games in hand. Of course, easier said than done when you're facing teams like Vancouver and Edmonton and Calgary in the next week. But that's the challenge. And that's going to be the opportunity in front of them here as this next week goes down and the records.
Well, it's a wonderful Penguins update. Josh, thanks for fitting us in. Appreciate it. Enjoy the West Coast.
Thanks, Rod. I'll talk to you soon.
Josh Getzoff, the radio voice of the Pittsburgh Penguins. When we come back, overtime for our friends at Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary, a sports update, an audience takeover. One more time, we're live on Game Plus TV, WQEE Radio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Live.
Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, has led to this. It's out of your hands now. All the gold medals in the world can't help you now. You could throw the perfect rock and still miss, but it just takes one. You leave it all out there on the ice to leave behind a legacy.
The sports landscape continues to change, and teams and facilities are under more pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. They need the right team to deliver their product. Look no further than IKS Live. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience across all platforms.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at IKSGameDay.com.
At the Key Auto Group Pre-Owned Division, we're bringing back that new car feeling. No matter what, it's new to you and priced just right. No hidden fees, prices you can trust, an upfront buying experience. And it's all at keyautogroup.ca.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
You got something to say? You want to add to the show? What are you waiting for? Don't just sit there. Say something. Now, back to the studio with Rod.
Away we go, and Overtime is brought to you by our friends, conveniently enough and coincidentally enough, at Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary. I know Randy and Michelle are watching right now. Hi, guys. Hope you guys had a great weekend over there at Overtime Hockey Lanes and we're busy. Just go check them out, everybody. They got day camps for the kids, skills competitions, office parties, family parties, team parties, fully licensed bar and restaurant. As our guy Joe said, where else would you want a place called Overtime Hockey Lanes to be but Calgary, the hockey capital? 28th Street Northeast, just a slap shot away from the old Crossroads Flea Market. Tell them Rod sent you. I will jump into a sports update here in a second, but this Jets ownership thing really got accelerated, exacerbated by Mark Chipman on Friday when he said it's not sustainable the way things are going. It's got everybody freaking out in Winnipeg, but it's not going to change the economics of the dollars. Do you think you're going to convince Chipman and his partner David Thompson otherwise, that they're wrong? Glenn in Medicine Hat writes in and says, why do Canadian hockey fans feel obliged to dole out financial advice to NHL ownership groups? I know, right? Allie in Texarkana writes in. She says, great show as always. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, my friends. Just hang on, Allie, before you leave. We are reminded of our mortality. I've got a poll up at our Instagram page for the Cats and Bolts podcast, Serena and my show on the Panthers and Lightning, and I put the poll up there. It's similar to what our poll question is today. Who's the greatest USA-born hockey player of all time? Mike Modano, Patrick Kane. I put Chelios up in the Instagram poll. On ours here on this show, it's Roenick or other. And leading the way right now is Patrick Kane. And they're wrong, because the best USA player ever is Mike Modano. But I'm sitting here, I'm looking because I personally know the people voting on our poll on Instagram. That's what I love about Instagram. You can see who's watching, see who's voting, and they're all youth hockey kids here in Florida that never even saw Modano play. It's such a shame, but it's a thing that we need to remember. I guess that's what we need to remember the greats, remember the alumni, honor the past. The teams don't do it, but we'll do it. regarding Chipman threatening people, buy tickets or we're moving. And people are upset about that. My Dale Mike writes in on the Sober Carpenter text line, 902-518-3033, and says, businesses close all the time because people quit buying the product. You're not entitled to buy hockey tickets to watch the Jets, and they're not entitled to have a team there if they're not making money at it. It's sad, but it's the way it is. Wilf in Steinbach, Manitoba is watching on Game Plus TV, and he says, hi, Rod and Moose. As the salary caps go up, fans will pay or stop going to the games. Small markets are doomed. Did you see the NFL salary cap went up over the weekend? $30.6 million. What was I talking about earlier? These tickets here in Miami are $1,000, some of them. $1,000. And I'm just like, no, I could pay for it. I'm not. This is stupid. But as long as like I say it, I go to the games, people are in my face bitching about the cost of tickets. I'm like, you bought them. Sports update, the Toronto Blue Jays, who lost 12-6 to the Yankees Sunday and 14-13 to the Phillies on Saturday, will be looking for a win and aiming to cut down on the runs against when they face the Pittsburgh Pirates this afternoon in Dunedin. Meanwhile, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers announced today this club has signed American receiver K.J. Hill. He is the all-time the receptions leader at OSU, Ohio State. Broke the record previously held by David Boston. Debo. Sports update brought to you by Landmark Cinemas. As always, in theaters now. Anyone But You. I just checked on the weekend. It's still there. Maybe I'll check that out today. Starring Alexandra Shipp and Glenn Powell. Check out their all-new bonus content. In theaters now, Landmark Cinemas, Anyone But You. And, of course, brought to you as well by Common Crown Brewing Company, turning your everyday common beer into a unique and exceptional experience. Visit commoncrown.ca. A big thank you to Josh Getzoff and James Roberts. And you, of course, for tuning in. Let's just hope for better days for the Winnipeg Jets. We'll do it all again tomorrow, noon Eastern, right here.
Who has more fun than us?